Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? This is was a very interesting topic. We started researching this about a year ago. Now, obviously, we've been very, very involved in higher education up until then, but we really wanted to do a deep dive. We really wanted to better understand this. We brought in 3 top market research groups, one who in fact specializes in higher education. And we asked them some very, very specific questions. First of all, to get sort of an overview of what's going on within the industry, and then specifically, how has marketing changed? What should we be aware of, and what can we bring to you in terms of best practices? So let me share this with you. First of all, I don't know how many of you, I'm going to give you a couple of quick associations. I don't know how many of you are familiar with UCDA. Their national conference is coming up in a few weeks. If you're not familiar, UCDA is the University and College Designers Association. They've been around now for 30 years. They have regional chapters, and then every year they do a national conference where they will bring in top speakers on a variety of topics. So I've been privileged to be one of their keynote speakers and breakout speakers for the last 15 years. Full disclosure, Tad Sandusi, who is the executive director, is a very good friend. And we asked him, to help us to sort of better understand what's going on. We captured this quote from him: "The competition to increase the admission yields." First of all, the fact that he used the term admission yield said something right away, is stiffer than ever. Simply providing a view book and other enrollment information will not suffice. Marketing communication in higher education institutions have become much more sophisticated and strategic than ever, and is likely to continue. Well, that started our a thought and a train, because, of course, we look at it from a design and print and social media perspective. They were looking at it from a very different perspective. Let me share some research that I did with you that I think was very enlightening for me. And it started very innocently. I wanted to get an overview of really higher education as an industry in total for the United States. And I have to say, it is amazing that we do not report numbers about higher education. We report them by institutions, individual colleges, whatever. But I could not get a handle on looking at real solid numbers for higher education until I finally started doing some real deep digging, and I found a number of sites that gave me some white papers, and I had to get clearance to be able to receive the white paper. I had to fill out a profile, they had to approve it, and then they sent me they allowed me to download the white paper. What was the number that I was looking for? I wanted to get a sense of the size in revenue annually of higher education. Let me ask you, sort of open this up. In terms of dollars, how large do you think higher education is as an industry? This is all associations, all associates, 2-year program, community, anything after high school, whether it's private or how big do you think it is? Just a guess, wild guess. Pardon?
Billions.
Billions? How many billions? Pardon? 100 billion? It will be, by 2020, a $1 trillion industry. Please understand something. $1 trillion industry is larger than all groceries.
Don't worry about
It is larger than all fashion. It is, in fact, $1 trillion makes higher education, in fact, the 6th largest industry in the United States. It is only surpassed, in fact, by energy, pharmaceuticals, construction, finance, but not by a lot. And if you'd like the numbers, I have them with me. I was flabbergasted. We're talking about a $1 trillion industry. And as I started doing more research and I started bringing this up with our consultants, they sort of said very much the same thing, particularly the consultant in the higher ed. They said, yeah, absolutely. They said, actually, if you look at how the industry is run, if we were to go back 50 years, most universities and colleges were, in fact, administered by teachers, by professors. They had done their 20, 25 years. They were tapped on the shoulder and they said, you know our institution very, very well. We trust you. We'd like you. We're going to give you some additional education, but we'd like you to administrate. That is not the case at all anymore. The reality is the industries are so large and so lucrative that they are, in fact, run by finance and business administration folks, many of whom do have a specialty in specifically higher ed, but their total focus is on finance. I would share with you that this sort of gives us a glimpse of the first challenge that we have as we start looking at the marketing of higher education. So we wanted to get a good idea of what's going on. We started gathering some numbers just as an opening conversation. We were stunned where we saw a third of higher education institutions said that they felt comfortable with their marketing. They felt that it was doing a good job or that they were doing well. And we know who falls into these categories. We have elite colleges and universities throughout the United States. They have marketing departments. They're very savvied. They have consultants that they can hire. They have the kind of revenues to allow to bring in outside help. But to stop and think of it, 2/3 of the other educational institutions do not feel comfortable at all that they're getting what they want out of the money that they're spending. This reminds me, in fact, very much of the saying, if you remember, Marshall Field said, I know that 50% of my advertising is doing a great job, I just don't know which 50% it is. I mean, one of the things we have to be aware of is this has turned into very much an administrative challenge in a business. Here was the thing that we saw that really caught our attention. And I will tell you in advance, this number is not correct. This was the number that we got, but then as we looked more, 29% of high school seniors apply to 7 or more colleges. That's no longer true. In fact, the digitalization of application has changed this dramatically. We are all familiar that there are apps that are now available to students where they can fill out a profile once, they can write one essay, copy it, and then they can submit an application as many times as their parents can afford, after they have paid to help them pass the exams and pay a consultant to help them fill out the profile and write the essay. And parents are spending extraordinary amounts of money to ensure that their students or their children become students of the schools that they would like. What we saw, amazingly enough, is that the number right now actually hovers between 12 and 15 applications per student. Why is this important? Because the fact is, every application is expensive. It's expensive to process. In fact, right now, the average is a little over $2,200 per student that gets accepted. These are extraordinary administrative costs for a school to be able to pay. The idea of seeing this, and I'm going to relate this to another sort of larger function in a second, you'll understand why we were taken very much by surprise at the expense of the process itself. It mirrored something for us at the corporate level that we kept saying, this feels very, very familiar, which we would not like for it to be. So, unfortunately, the truth is right now we have over $1 trillion in student loan debt, And most students, the average right now in the United States is students leave with a $35,000 student loan debt, not including the $7,000 to $10,000 in personal credit card debt that they accumulate in the 4 years that they're at school. Let me share something with you, just as a quick sidebar. I have the privilege, I'm the North American Print and Creative Director for SAPI. I have the privilege of traveling all over North America. I deliver a very different conversation about higher education when I'm in Canada. Very different. In fact, at one point we thought, we shouldn't even do this in Canada. It doesn't make sense. You know, it's a socialized school, a socialized education. They go to college for, to say 5% of what we pay. I mean, I was there 2 years ago when the students had a huge strike. They were marching down the streets, very much Parisian style, if you will, because Canada wanted to raise tuition by $600. $600. And for us, as Americans, we thought, well, just don't buy that damn latte, or stop smoking, that $600 right there. Don't you understand how privileged you are that you can go to school, some of the very top schools, for $3,000, $3,500? So, I'll share this with you because I work with every major corporation in North America. I work with their marketing departments, with their design departments, etc. I write a lot. I'm interviewed a lot. I made a comment a couple of years ago that got me into trouble. And nonetheless, I will continue to repeat it because I believe it in my heart. I was being interviewed by an international design magazine, and as the interview was wrapping up, the young lady said, "What do you think the greatest challenge is right now in graphic arts?" I didn't hesitate in my response, which is what got me into trouble. And I said, the biggest challenge we have right now is that we have financial people making aesthetic decisions. Does that make sense? Where at one time, we the creative marketing departments, were in fact, sort of reprimanded because we wanted to win awards. We wanted everything to be fabulous and to win awards. Now, all of a sudden, of course, we are laden with budgetary restrictions. And I would share with you that opens up the conversation, which is if we understand that this is a business, that the fact is that we absolutely have to address budgets from a business perspective. It is all about return on investment. It is about how do we lift, the number of applications? How do we lift, the attendee levels? How do we keep students in school, and keep that loyalty level? And now we've got a much larger challenge. For the first time in the last 20 years, it has been very much a part of both higher education and government to really push the concept that a degree is very, very necessary. And a higher degree, the better. And now for the first time, we're seeing a backlash to that, where we look up and realize we have lost an enormous labor force. Does this look like anything anybody's ever seen before? Please?
Inverted Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, it's the sales funnel. It is totally the sales funnel. The person who put that together for higher education was in fact a sales specialist, was somebody who knows how to teach and train selling. So here's the interesting thing. If you look at the top, search pool, now we talked about this. Search pool, this is going to be college fairs. This is going to be first touch. This is where you actually start to gather names, gather interest. Well, the interesting thing from a business perspective, we actually call that prospecting. Where do you get your names? Where do you go? You go to events, you buy lists, you do whatever, you compile mailing lists, you try to find places to go. There's no difference whatsoever. What happens, though, is that what we've come to realize is this is a point where we need to start using print more. Why? Now, how many of you, and I don't mean to put you on a spot, but how many of you have seen either print and the presentation and the booklet that we wrote, or the Neuroscience of Touch? Okay. Print and was the 18-month study. It was $1 million study, essentially. State of the industry. And the interesting thing that we've come to realize is that in all of the research that we do, why is direct mail important? Particularly early on. What is the function of direct mail? Introduction, and what's the call to action? And this is really key. We use direct mail. I'm not selling you direct mail to sell paper. I am telling you through 30 years of experience, I use direct mail as a call to action to get them online. Print has got limitations. You do not have the budget I do, by any means. I can print till the cows come home. I can pick up the phone, honest to God, and say, I need another, 44,000 pounds of paper. I need it by tomorrow. And they go, okay. You can't. There are limitations to print. We have to be strategic. You only have so much real estate. But the beauty of it is, if I can engage my audience, if I can give them information that is relevant and timely to their decision-making process, I can get them to go online where now all of a sudden I have all the room I want. What is the single strongest media driver we have? I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions like this. They are going to be leading for a very good reason. We've got so much research in this. I wish I had all day with you. I don't. The strongest media driver we have right now is video. What I want you to understand, we talk about mobile first, but what I want you to think is it is in fact video first. Do you realize how large YouTube is? And I want to give you a sense how big and how fast it's growing. We are, as a culture, we adore video. Why? Because we all grew up on television and movies. We'd rather be visually stimulated than have to furnish the effort. Does that make sense? In fact, a great speaker said, why is YouTube so successful? Because we'd rather have somebody show us how to do it than actually have to read the instructions. More importantly, and here's the key, if you don't like the way that person showed you, there's 100 other people, and here's the other more important, it is also in other languages. If you want to see it in Spanish, if you want to see it in French, if you want to see it in German, if you want to see it in your native tongue, you can. Whether it's how to use a Weber grill or how to fill out an application. Does that make sense? And the beauty of video is that you watch it and also you go, oh, I missed it. You rewind, you watch it again, you rewind, you watch it again. Somebody who knows how to create really good videos is aware of that. It's parceled. Let's do this section. Okay, did you get that? If not, let's go back. All right, let's go on to the next section. And it seems pedantic, but you are walking people through a process. The use of video is one of the most important things that you can do, particularly with young people. So what do I want to do? I want to send them a piece of printed literature with a call to action to get them online, where I tell them we have all of these instructional videos to be able to help you to get through the process. Does that make sense? You want to see what our campus looks like? I've got a campus tour. You want to see, do you want to see what the science department looks like? Let's take a tour. We'll talk about this. My point is that we need to be able to fulfill what the expectations are of our client, of our prospect. So that said, inquiry. So you go to this college fair, you send out direct mail, you buy lists, Now all of a sudden you get feedback. This is exactly what you want. We're now looking at what we would call a qualified engagement. Somebody goes, oh, really? That's interesting. I like that. I want to go to a small to medium-sized art college that's only for men. Or whatever it is. We can start getting really specific. We're starting to use filters. Now all of a sudden we start to go here at this point. And here's the interesting thing. How many of you are familiar with Trish Witkowski? 60-second super cool fold of the week. If you're not, I cannot recommend this more strongly. Foldfactory.com. Trish got her undergrad and her master's from RIT. She got her master's in folding. How geeky is that? But, pardon?
Not now, it's not.
Not now, absolutely. I full disclosure, she's one of my best friends. We've actually toured for the last 8 years together. We wrote a book together on direct mail called Act Now. Okay, she is by far one of the top consultants in direct mail. She has a weekly video called the 60-second super cool fold of the week. Sounds geeky, but she just had her 400th video. They're weekly. She's been doing this for 8 years. If you want an education in direct mail design, go to foldfactory.com and sign up. It's as a subscription, or go to YouTube and type in foldfactory.com. They're only a minute and a half long, but you see the coolest direct mail, literally the coolest. I'm going to show you some at the end of this that she's done. But the fact of the matter is that when we were touring, she said something, and the first time she said it, it creeped me out. You'll see why. But she was talking about direct mail, and what she said is, we do it incorrectly. That is to say, when we are prospecting up in here, we give them the goods. We want to impress them. We want to really let them know how good we really are. And she said, stop. This process is like dating. That's what creeped me out. And you have to understand, when we were together, if you ever see her, she's lovely. She's poised, she's beautiful, she's breathtakingly brilliant. But when we're together, it's like the Lucy and Ricky show, okay? You know which one I am, right? So you never know what's going to come out of her mouth. But she said, you go on a blind date. You have no idea who this person is. It's investigatory. You're not going to take them to the best restaurant in the city and spend an enormous amount of money only to find out you don't like them or they don't like you. You take them to a nice place, someplace where you can really enjoy and talk and have, try to build. Now, all of a sudden, when they say, we should really get together again. Second date, now you want to start thinking, I want you to know who I really am. And now there's greater disclosure and a little more. Does that make sense? We pace ourselves. The big mistake that we make is that we spend an enormous amount of money up here with very little ROI. Nothing will piss off an administrator faster. Does that make sense? If you can come back and say, we did this, we didn't spend a lot, but we got all of these names, so now we're going to start the campaign because now they're engaged, now we know they're qualified, that makes sense. So, yeah, everybody loves a view book. Problem is, they're really expensive. We have to be very discriminating about when we choose to give out our most expensive things. That, by the way, includes swag. I mean, nobody needs another coffee cup, ball cap, t-shirt, pen, mug. I mean, come on. There comes a time when it makes sense. But the reality is, when you get it, you want it to be meaningful. And when it's meaningful, you keep it and you use it. And it's, I have a few coffee mugs and pens on my desk from certain universities throughout North America that are really meaningful to me. And every time I look at it, every time I grab a pen from it, there's that moment where I go, yeah, cool. All right? So my point is, be judicious about the use. Let me put it this way to you. Quick sidebar. Have you all done a print audit of all the pieces that you use, that you send out? Do you know how much each piece costs per unit? And the idea is, at what point are you going to spend that kind of money? And it has to be well timed. Because here's the interesting thing. You'll see in a second. You are marketing to a group that is, first of all, used to getting a lot of stuff, but really don't care. Does that make sense? Okay? But if you give them the right thing at the right time with their name on it, oh, dude. You are like brethren, you know. So, application. Now is the big time. Application is, in fact, they're saying, yeah, when I first met you, I thought you were interesting. We went to the next level. You are very interesting. Interesting enough for me to want to take it to the next step and to pay to have an application. Now, keep in mind, that young person now is sending out somewhere between 12 and 15 applications. You know, as much as you'd like to think that you're really special, you know, you are really one of 15. It's like, you know, a reality show. You know, will you get the rose? I don't know. So here's where it started to get interesting. So the applications go in. We use the criteria that all of our schools use. We've got algorithms. You know, we read, etc. The essays. I will share something with you. Quick sidebar. It's not in here. Trisha's sending it to me, but she found this piece that was so amazing. And it came from a school out in the Pacific Northwest where in the acceptance letter, this is where you want to really make an impression. Because now you really want to be able to, and I'm using the term seduce in the kindest form, but you really want it is not solicitous, it is seductive. Does that make sense? I'm not playing semantics. Because here's the interesting thing. In a lot of colleges, when they send their acceptance, this is when you send the t-shirt, the pennant, the subscription box. Because what you're saying is, you're one of us. And if you really care, you're going to throw on this sweatshirt. You're going to go out and go, guess where I'm going to school? Does that make sense? But here was the cool part. This was so brilliant that it just knocked me out. A school in the Northwest, as a part of the acceptance package, took the essay that the young person wrote, found one really core sentence that was meaningful. I want to go to your school because I want to learn how to make an impact on the community that I'm going to be working with. I'm not writing copy here, obviously. They took that, they blew it up, and they turned it into a poster. And they basically said, your words were so important to us. We wanted to recognize and we wanted to celebrate your words. And they took that, they turned it into a poster. They gave credit to the student for writing that, and they sent it to them. And what came out of that? I'm asking you. When that student opens up and sees that poster and they see their words, what do you think happens? Please. Special and what else? Valued and heard. Does that make sense? Acknowledged and heard. When you get that, anytime that you can build that into your acceptance, you're lifting yourself up from the standard form letter that, congratulations, you're going to have been accepted, and now you need to do this. Come on. This is a young person. I mean, their heart's on the line. You got to talk. No, I'm serious. You got to talk to their heart. The parents really thrilled. At the same time, they're thinking, oh, crap, $35,000 a year, whatever it is,
35.
Yeah, 35, believe me. I know. I am telling you, my professor wife taught at one of those schools that was, we were like, really? So, all right, here's the point I want to make. And this is what really caught us by surprise. Student gets the acceptance letter, and now they are committed. Bless. See how interactive this can be if you give it a chance? They commit. Here's what took us by surprise. They took it from, let's just use rough numbers, 12 to 15 apps. They get accepted by, let's say, 7. I'm just saying, all right? They say yes to 3, right? They only choose 1. What we found out that was amazing is from commitment to enrollment, the close in business talk was about a third. Why is this important? Because it still costs us over $2,200 per application. This is an expensive process. If you are a policy or decision maker and you're watching this whole process happen, you're not seeing all the warm, fuzzy, social media, you're looking at that. And you're multiplying it by how many kids applied, and times 2,200, gee, that cost us what? That's my point. Does that make sense? This is a business. It's being run like a business. Now here's the interesting thing. I'm a designer, I'm an art director, I'm a creative director. I'm talking to people who are in a $1 trillion industry, and my question is, please explain to me why you cannot afford that foil stamp, or that soft touch, or why can I not do a gatefold? And the fact of the matter is, they will say no because they see an expenditure. But if I can prove to them that a soft touch, or a foil stamp, or a gatefold is going to give me a lift of X% in response rates. And by the way, what is the number? If you use any kind of special effects on your cover, foil stamp, die cut, emboss, deboss, soft touch, grit, anything like that, as high as an 18% higher response rate. 18%. Now that's just on a response rate. It doesn't mean that's your close rate. But my point is this. Let me share something with you, and I'm now absolutely speaking as a designer, because when I heard this, I freaked out. Please understand, I owned my own agency for 20 years. My dad owned an advertising agency in Chicago. I've been the creative director of several extraordinarily large corporations. I have access to a lot of information, but, it just freaked me out. The fact that when you start seeing those kinds of increases in rates, response rates, and that we don't act upon it. The single most important tools that you can use right now, I'll just give it to you up front. We did a whole study on the neuroscience of touch with Dr. David Edelman, chair of 2 departments at Baylor, now the head of neuroscience at Stanford. We've done a lot of studies. The one thing that caught me by surprise, literally honest to God by surprise, when we did a survey of a very large control of young people currently applying, they said to us, everything looks alike. We're like, what are you talking about? Everything looks alike. Here's the interesting thing. Stop and think about it. We live in a culture where we read, left to right, top to bottom. We turn the pages, picture, 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 copy, 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 picture, copy, picture, copy. It's like, If you're a young person, of course it all looks alike. If I were to give it to you, and I judge shows, I judge print shows and design shows all over North America. I see huge differences. They don't. We have to differentiate ourselves from our competition in our markets. What is going to do it? I'll wrap this pretty much all up for you nicely. Special effects, foil stamping, die cutting, embossing, debossing, specialty papers, any kind of special effects will first of all change it. Different formats. Get away from 11/17 folded to 8.5 by 11. Do something different. 9 by 9, tall and long, something, okay? And singularly, the most important thing that you can absolutely focus on right now, augmented reality. Page recognition, image recognition that takes them to a microsite that will either answer very specific questions or take them to videos or to talking heads. Does that make sense? If you do not differentiate yourself from a marketing perspective, you've lost. You are just, unless in advance somebody has whispered in their ear, a family member or an alumni enough times that they have done the branding for you. So, very quickly, the one thing that we ended up having to do, we being sappy, but me as a consultant to a lot of corporations, is we had to stop and realize, whether we like it or not, that generationally we operate differently. And I know at this point we're all really, really oversaturated with conversations about boomers and X and Y and millennials. But the fact is, I've seen recently some absolutely spectacular psychological analysis and generational analysis about the different demographics. We treat them as demographics because they are demographics. The challenge that we have right now, interestingly enough, is that we are actually talking to millennials, but at the same time, we are trying to get the boomers to buy in at the same time. There are a lot of really, really good seminars coming out right now on marketing to millennials. The one thing is, you don't have to kill yourself. I've already killed myself. I've already read way more stuff. Believe me. This comes from Trish Witkowski, and she has probably one of the best marketing to millennial seminars that I've seen, and I've seen a lot. The only one that I've seen that's actually, in my case, better was Tom Carroll, who is the Global Executive Vice President of R.R. Donnelley Human Resources. And he does this whole thing about, it is not just a question of who they are, but how you have to manage them once you've hired them. Okay, by the way, what's interesting is it's no longer about helicopter parents. Okay, the new one, it's not helicopter, it's lawnmower. Lawnmower parents clear the path in front of their kids so that they can just walk through without getting too dirty. Here's an interesting thing. Very quick sidebar. Tom Carroll, Global Executive Vice President of Human Resources for R.R. Donnelley. When they hire and recruit a young person for R.R. Donnelley, on their first day, they invite the parents to join them. Why? Wait. Why? Because you're talking about a demographic that can be easily disappointed and will move quickly. So what do? They get the parents involved so that when that young person goes, I don't like my job, I don't think, they're not really nice, I don't want to, and he said he didn't like my job, and the parents go, no honey, It's a great job. You don't want to leave. And what they found, through an enormous amount of research, is that parents get their children to stay at a job longer and build up that kind of resistance, if you will. So the interesting thing is it what you want to do? From all of our standpoints, probably not. But the more parental involvement you have right now, the better it will be. So you want to stimulate those kinds of conversations in your marketing pieces. So, very quickly, what are we dealing with? This comes from a number of psychological studies. We sort of condensed it for you. What are the key interests of this demographic? First and foremost, they want accessibility. In the job market, interestingly enough, they want not only to be able to talk to their boss, they want to be able to talk to their boss's boss. They don't understand why they can't just talk to the CEO. Absolutely true. Accessibility is important. So the fact is, they want to be able to talk to their professors when they need to. They want to be able to talk to the department head. To them, why would you not? So we have, first of all, teaching them protocol is important, but also having a sense in our marketing to let them know we are always available to you. We have these numbers that you can call. We have people in place ready to help you. Really very important. So the desire to communicate, to participate, key point, they want things on demand and they want things in real time. Secondly, key, and this I cannot emphasize this more strongly. This is what I consult right now to most corporations. Please understand, the more technology we bring into our lives, the more we dehumanize marketing, advertising, and merchandising. Does that make sense? The companies who can build that sense of humanity into who they are, what they do, what they deliver, are the companies that will do extraordinarily well. I cannot build that in more strongly. So conscientiousness, it is how involved is your institution with environmental, sustainability issues? What causes are you supporting? What are you doing that is making a difference on a global level? This can be, by the way, grants. This can be a professor that you have that is been awarded for work done. This can be departments that are doing things as a department to help communities, whatever. That kind of conscientiousness becomes incredibly important and should be marketed very, very strongly. Personalization, again, I can't emphasize this enough. It is use the data that you have, be personal, talk to them one-to-one. They've been used to it their whole life, continue to do it. Technological integration, the more that they see that the campus, the organization, the marketing is technologically advanced, the more they will feel strongly about you. The use of augmented reality is huge. Do not be concerned about augmented reality. It is simple. There are people right now within your organization that is doing it. What is the big game changer? OS 11, the new operating system for Apple, is going to be focusing enormously on augmented reality and virtual reality to a certain extent. Quick sidebar. Do all of you have the new Forbes cover? The new Forbes magazine? Please, when you leave here, or at some point today, go and buy the new Forbes magazine. It's their 100th anniversary. Why is it important? The cover has got Warren Buffett. It's augmented reality with artificial intelligence. You can ask Warren Buffett questions and he will answer your questions. Yeah. You want to talk, I mean, I do a whole seminar on disruptive innovation and technology. People know me for it. Fads, trends, and disruptive innovation. That's what I did at Print last week in Chicago. And let me tell you, from 30,000 feet, I am the futurist for, and the trend spotter for SAPI. I heard this, I freaked out. This is two major technologies being blended into one. First of all, using augmented reality so that when you use your tablet and you see Warren Buffett, that he's there in real time. But the fact that they're using artificial intelligence so that he answers questions, that is freaky. So make sure that you get it. Because here's the interesting thing. You see that, and here's what I want you to walk away with. You see it and you think technologically, oh, well, this is so advanced we can't even think about it. It's just the opposite. How many of you are familiar with the AR kit? So capital A, capital R, capital KIT, AR, Augmented Reality Kit, is in fact the new third-party software that Apple has created for you to be able to do augmented reality. Or go to Layar, L-A-Y-A-R. They are one of the top companies. They have seminars all the time. There are two levels of augmented reality. There is the popular version, that's if you want to do it for yourself and have fun, small, whatever. And then there's the enterprise version, which is corporate, much more sophisticated, but can extraordinary applications. Anyone in your computer science groups will be able to talk to you about it and be able to do it. That's my point. That's what they're being taught. You've got resources within your university right now. It's like if I were to ask you, where would you get really good photographs? Yeah, from your art students, you know? I mean, it's like, come on. So, technological integration. Seamless, always accessible, easy to use, multi-channel, multi-device, mobile first, content and communications. The working maxim that you have got to use, absolutely. Don't make me wait for it. Don't make me work for it. Does that make sense? What is the attention span right now? What is the attention span window right now? 3 to 5 seconds. If it doesn't happen in 3 to 5 seconds, they're gone. If the link doesn't work in 3 to 5 seconds, they're gone. If they have to scroll, they're gone. If the type's too small, they're gone. If they can't see what they're supposed to be seeing right now, they're gone. Don't make me wait for it. Don't make me work for it. If you're going to tell me that you're going to take me to someplace, take me to someplace. Don't tell me, oh, then I've got it. Microsites are just that. They are microsites, and they work. Social media, absolute mandatory. You want the people within your community. First of all, this is a very community-based demographic. They love the inclusion. They want to be a part of. They also want to be able to talk to. And they want their opinions to be shared. Sharing is massively important. Everybody wants to share their photos, their opinions. Hey, look, I did this. I'm here now. That means you have to have a system that can enable that to work. So, key point. When we worked with our consultant, our higher educational consultant, the first thing that they said to us, you have to be aware, academia silos. They don't like each other. They don't like to share, and nobody talks to sports. Isn't it? Sports is, they are an entity unto themselves. They make gajillion dollars. They can have a stadium built in a heartbeat. They've got the money liquid. They are a revenue stream for the university. So, but let's be honest. The one thing that we found out is because there isn't that cross-seminal communication, it also means that they're not sharing assets, which is a shame. You want the science department to share all of their videos with you when you're doing recruiting. You want the alumni group to be able to give you access to alumni because the most underused asset at universities are the alumni. I mean, the big names, the celebrities, yeah, but you want to know what? Most kids, honestly, they aspire to be, celebrities, but they also like to hear somebody who said, I have a great job. This university helped me. I had a great time when I was at the university or the college. I had fun. I got taught. I got a job right away. I mean, normal people giving you normal stories are just as important as the celebrities. Does that make sense? Testimonials are the most important thing that you could be collecting all the time. You capture them, and you're going to go, well, what am I going to do with them? Well, guess what? You can create an icon that is an augmented reality trigger that every time the student sees that trigger, they hit it, and something comes up, and it's another talking head saying, hey, by the way, I was in the science department, or by the way, I graduated from the theater department, now all of a sudden you pepper all of your pieces with testimonials of real people telling you real stories. That is the authenticity that this generation looks for. Does that make sense? So, I'm not following the book at all. You've got the book. You can do that on your own. What we did do is we had a lot of fun with the piece. This is very much our design style because we can. We like to do things like this. A lot of fun, special effects, triggers, all kinds of fun things. It's on the inside of your book. The fact is that you can follow that on your own. The book, I must say sincerely, is very well written. It was very well researched. It was very well written. We've tried to give you a lot of resources in the back. That idea of being able to, like a lot of campaigns, you start your campaign on a dry erase board. And you talk about the pieces that you're going to be producing and what the assets are. And when we do that, we start to have a better idea of how do we incorporate key pieces of information into everything that we do. How do we use great videos, great photos? How do we use it in print? How do we push it out to a phone? How do we use it as a part of an augmented reality piece? If it's really powerful, use it as a part of your branding for that year. Try not to repeat year after year. That's the challenge. There's some things you will always have to, obviously your colors, your mascot, etc. But, young people really do have a really good memory. And here's the thing that I see a lot, and I'm saying this to you as a judge. I see a lot of downloaded stuff. A lot of downloaded illustration and a lot of downloaded imagery. Because there are people who specialize in photography for higher education. So you go to them because, they're supposed to be so good. Forget it. Believe me, I'm telling you, as a creative director, use the talent that you have on campus. It's superb. It's superb. You don't know enough about social media or how to, what's cool or what not. Guess who to ask? Your students. That's all they're doing all day is social media. And they're doing it well, and they're sophisticated. And they can tell you, oh, nobody uses that app anymore. My parents use that app. Like how icky is that? So here's the other thing. Try to use really interesting formats. Okay? When we did standard number 6, it was on bindery. Not a particularly exciting topic. Why would we want to talk about that? Because here's the interesting thing, and I'm saying this as a designer. For God's sakes, there's got to be something other than saddle stitch and perfect bound. Why can it not just be one long piece, that's accordion folded, or something that's barrel folded? Use really interesting formats. So this was one that I chose. I couldn't get permission from the university that this was from, but I had consulted them not as a higher education consultant, but as a graphic consultant, and they did this. What was interesting was this, and the way that they manifested this, I thought, or implemented this, was brilliant. You're all familiar with this. It's the Pantone book, right? The least expensive bindery there is other than string. It's a Chicago post and screw, all right? So here's the interesting thing. This, in print terms, is called a tongue, okay? So it's typically printed 4/0 or, there's rarely printing on the backside, but you can. My point is this. You can do, depending on the digital format, the size of the press, you can do somewhere between 18 and 36 tongues to a page. Cool? So what do? They got together and they started, it's as if I went around the room. Tell me something wonderful about the university. Tell me something wonderful. And they went around and they collected all these different, features, advantages, benefits. Typical sales terms. The campus is beautiful. It's in a marvelous part of the country. We have a great science department. And each one was really interesting. And they edited it down. They had it written professionally. And then what they did is that they were able to print these, and they actually printed several pages of tongues. And then they had them slotted. They left the front cover blank. So a young person is getting their acceptance letter. They individualize this for Allison with a Y. And then based on her profile and everything that they know about her, they would pull the right tongues. It was done by students, so it was inexpensive. Thank you. I'll tell you what, I think the one thing that we're starting to understand better is, depending on the field of study, certainly in the arts, the more prolific they can be, the more prepared they are for the world. But, in this case, it was the graphics. But what they did is that this was printed digitally along with a bunch of other covers. And then it had a page. This person is going into the science department. They're going to pledge such and such. So they pulled all these tongues. They put it together, screwed and posted it, wrapped it, and sent it to the student. Key point. Will that student ever throw that away?
No.
In their lifetime. It will be in that box with all the other stuff that they've accumulated forever, because it's them. It's a perfect profile. How much did that cost? Nothing. How much more meaningful is something like this? Do I make my point? Interesting format, personalization. You could have a couple of pages that might have an augmented reality trigger, that they can use. How perfect. This can, and in some situations, should replace the standard formatting that we're so accustomed to. The interesting thing, as I said, going back to the decision and policymakers, the financial people, they would be delighted by something like this. Now, of course, at the first, they'd be like, wait, this isn't 1117 that folds into a book in a saddle stitch. No, it's not. You're right. How astute. But when they see its application and why you do it, makes a huge, huge difference. Make it personal. We talked about that. Use that personalization through everything. This is a perfect application to be using pearls. Does that make sense? Listen, if you're not familiar with Mindfire as a company, look them up. Wonderful company. They do pearls, and they sell pearls exactly the same way that you rent or buy a mailing list. The idea is that you can take an application and your mailing list, merge them to be able to create all pearls. Everything should be personalized. Fun and engaging, of course. Here's the key. I'm just going to share something with you from my own life, but I think it's interesting because I think it applies very much. I grew up in a college town. I grew up in Evanston, Illinois. All right. I loved living in a college town. Why? Because college towns have so much culture and sports and activities, and they merchandise it and advertise it beautifully. When I went to relocate, I set 3 criteria, and the first of my criteria was college town. I live in a college town now, and I'm thrilled because the fact is I still have access to, film festivals and music and everything else. Absolutely celebrate the culture of your culture. Does that make sense? I love, by the way, as a judge, I love brochures that fold up, that when you unfold them are a poster. Does that make sense? Here's the back side of a poster. What do you want to do with it? You fold it up and now use it as a communication piece. Absolutely. There's nothing more delightful that as you're unfolding, and then you go, boom, folder, a poster, wow. That can be really exciting. So have fun with it. Make sure that you talk outside of academic offerings. The financial folks, the policymakers really want to focus on the academics, but the fact is this is a young person. They want more than academics. It's the same way that when you take them on a neighborhood tour, take them outside of the campus, show them the saloon that they're going to use that fake ID at, where they're going to get that nasty burger, where the movie theaters are. But I'm sincere, these are kids. The campus tour is the close. And the fact is, if the campus is in a wonderful community, get that in as a part of the conversation. It becomes really wonderful. Certainly, the most popular piece that is sold and given away in colleges is the college map. Amazingly enough, we see this. It's given away as swag, but it's sold at the store. You can get it, and having a great map is really important. So I want to share this with you. I actually met Derek at UCDA. You are starting to see several companies like this. They are professional cartographers who specialize in campus or university maps. They can do everything from very, fun sort of, cartoon caricature-esque, all the way to aerial photo. This one was amazing, by the way, because if you clicked on this building, it would zoom up. And then if you clicked on a part of that, it would actually show you a room. Or you could type in, I need the science building room S225, and it would go, boom, there it is. So the way that you can buy these maps is that they are done digitally, they're printed, analog, but then they are uploaded onto the server, then available on a phone or on anything else. The beauty of this is that the most popular map that I can share with you, and this actually comes from our folding book, the one that Trish and I did, it's called the Z-Fold. We know the president of the company, full disclosure, wonderful guy. He said this is singularly the most popular product that he sells, and it happens to be for universities. The Z-Fold is a patented fold. I'm sure you've all seen it. You just go, and it opens, and you go, and it closes. But the beauty of it is it's about the size of a credit card. As you can see here, you can put the name of the university. Typically, the back has got all kinds of emergency numbers, campus numbers and things that they have access to. The beauty of it is, of course, is when it closes, it can go into a jean pocket or into a backpack or whatever. These can be laminated so that they last longer. And usually this is really just printed 4/0. It's a very simple printing. They have the whole thing set up. By the way, this comes in an extraordinary range of sizes, from 2x3 all the way up to 5x7, and still does the fold. But nicely done. Probably one of the most popular tools right now that's gaining a lot of popularity is the virtual reality campus tour. This is really, and here's the key. I've done the research. I would say, honestly, 90% of them are done by students or by the university themselves internally. In fact, a lot of the universities now, you can buy this die really inexpensively, the die line for the viewer. So you can just download it and they print it themselves with the school colors, et cetera, et cetera. But here's my recommendation. If you have not seen these done well, please go to YouTube and type in Virtual Reality Campus Tour. There are so many, and they're really good. I saw a couple years ago, and I actually started downloading these years ago when I knew that we were going to be doing this. This one actually...
You're soaring over one of the main passageways on campus. Look down and wave to the students.
It's not... You're hearing it, I'm sorry. Everybody's familiar with this icon. It's the 360-degree icon. So the beauty of this is... I gotta stop it. I'm not on Wi-Fi, so you're not seeing it. The beauty of this is actually shot with a drone. So they put it literally in the middle of campus. It takes off. So now you're literally able to swing 360 degrees and see the entire campus as this drone is shooting a 360 camera going up. And then what they did is that they put copy in the sky and on the grass and as you swung around. Very, very creative. Really short, which I thought was wonderful. Next thing you know, you're way up and you're seeing the entire campus, and you sort of have this wonderful view. This one was actually done.
This is my university.
I'm not going to play it. But what I loved so much about this was actually done in New Zealand. But this young man, obviously a student, is the narrator, and he's talking, and he really does what's so wonderful about it is he understands virtual reality. So he does these sort of sweeps with his arms. Over here, you'll see the cafe and the cafeteria. So, of course, you swing around. There's the cafeteria. And he takes you through the classes, and he takes you through everything. What really impressed me, this whole thing was done by students. The production value on a scale of 10 was a 7, maybe 7.5. There was a little wobble here and there, whatever, never bothered you. And then at the end, I mean, I liked the university. I liked what they had to say. The copy was extremely well written. And I asked myself the question, so how much did that cost? It cost nothing. It was all student talent. Then they just put it up on their server and they made the URL available. I mean, how brilliant is that? I take that, I put it on a postcard, I send it out thousands of times. Come and see us. Costs you next to nothing. Simple call to action, very impressive. So, please, the most underutilized asset of universities and colleges is the alumni. Getting them to be the talking head, the voice, the narrator, becomes incredibly important. Use them in webinars. Use them in any way that you can, and not just the celebrities, but just standard folks at the same time. So, and of course, we're also always talking to the parents. Why is that important? This was probably one of the most interesting things that I saw over and over again. At the college fair, they were putting out small chapbooks, 5.5, 8.5. And each one of them was on a very specific topic. So things like housing, finance, safety, the kinds of topics that parents would be interested in and particularly would create the conversation with their children. I mean, safety right now obviously is a huge issue. Drinking or, substance abuse, huge topic. Sort of, the kind of topics parents have problems talking to with their kids, but it's something that has to be talked about. So I love these. And they were easily printed, very nicely done. Give them away like hotcakes at a college fair. Costs very little, but is exactly what you want. And then have the kind of pieces that have that pull through to go to my website. I want you to go to my website. I want you to see my videos. I want you to see my virtual reality campus tour. Now all of a sudden, I become an entity. There were so many. It was tough. I like this one a lot. This is Swarthmore. And the reason I like this was, first and foremost, was designed, to me, it was designed by a student. Now, I know that it wasn't, by the way, but they put them in the mindset. So the fact is, really sort of chaotic, a lot of patchworky, get their attention. I love the fact that they sort of did this strange follow map kind of pieces of information. But what really got me was right in the middle of the book, all of a sudden they went to craft paper and they made it look like a graphic novel. The copy was written by hand in comic book style. Illustrations were done by hand. And then bang, they go right back into a really sort of formalized design. It was very fun. If I was a young person, it would keep me engaged and it would be really, really cool. Here's a perfect example. Inexpensive, but very, very creative. 4 different papers used to create the cover. Saddle stitched to hold it together, but the feel of the white and the blue, then the red, then the cover, really, really very fun. Big, solid close-ups work very, very well. Very human, very personal. These are real people going to this school, a very real school. Got a lot of authenticity about it. I like this, interesting because I don't know how many of you know, purple's really hard to work with. I'm saying that as a designer. Purple's hard. The fact that they used it well, certainly as for their type, but the fact, and here's an interesting thing, when we're doing direct mail, and if we're doing sub-targeted direct mail, I'm going to send direct mail just to male applicants, just to female applicants, or just to certain, fields of interest or fields of study. You can get your mailings to be relatively small. Lots of small mailings. The idea that I can do an envelope, print it digitally, and convert it to the size that I want is great. Please, please, please. Here is a perfect example of when I would absolutely work very closely with my print rep, with Shawmut, and say, what's it going to cost me if I want to do 25,000 envelopes, print flat, and convert? They have access to that. Use your colors, use it well. Now, here's the interesting thing. Do not be afraid of QR codes. I have to say very honestly, that one is just about as ugly as I've ever seen. I wish I had the time to show you some really beautiful QR codes, but keep in mind one thing. QR code, 35% contrast ratio, can be multiple color, drop shadow. You can knock out about 40% of the inside. You can also break these walls. So I've got examples of some of the most beautiful QR codes you have ever seen. 2 pieces of design. That, make it interesting and engaging, and then you're taking them to a microsite. You have to design it well so that it works very easily. Don't make me wait for it. Don't make me work for it. But the beauty of it is that they use this code very well, and what it does is essentially take you
the person that
to
you
their
are.
sort of corporate
What defines you growing up as
video.
a person?
You see
how
these.
did
If you
get
watch
to this moment?
Saturday football, you see
love
these
the
all the
community.
time.
You always agree with.
So we have access to these. In most cases, find out how many videos you actually have. And give people access to as many as those as you possibly can. Because all you have to do, very honestly, one small change in that QR code, and you've changed where you're sending them. You could be sending them to that video, you could send them to another video, you can send them to 25 videos. Use it, make it interesting. Now, here's something interesting. This one always makes me laugh. Is anybody here from Boulder? Good. I loved this campaign. It was clever. Be bolder. They are so proud of where they are, but watch this video because it tells you where their mindset is. Did anybody graduate from Boulder? Good. Oh, So, Mountains, Stadium, Boulder. That's it. What do you think their two emphasis is for going to Boulder? You get to ski and a lot of sports. If you're 17 years old, how much more do you need? And it's a beautiful campus, and it has extraordinary record, in terms of academics and everything else. But they did this to seduce young people. We're in a beautiful part of the country. Oh, by the way, surrounded by mountains. You can all imagine what it's like when it's in the winter and you can ski your fanny off. And we do this. And perfect. So, key point. What is the largest growing area of print? It is, in fact, self-publishing. Where do we see it? Self-published books, self-published magazines, and the fact that so many of the departments within a university really excel and do extraordinary things. That kind of self-publishing, here in this case, this is Pratt and their fashion school. It can be the science department, whatever, but we're seeing this happening a lot. That self-publishing can be an extraordinary marketing tool, and it tells a great story. This, by the way, is given to alumni. It is made available to students, but it is also sold as a magazine. So really nicely done, beautifully done. Higher ed magazines, really one of the largest growing, fastest growing areas, not just the entire universities, but literally also by department. The science department, the sports, the etc., theater department, really, really large. We've seen some beautiful pieces, and I would share with you. This is a completely different, as I'm sure you know, sort of focus. Fundraising happens to be an entity unto itself. We are seeing more extraordinary pieces being done, particularly from the alumni donor, from a fundraising perspective as well. Lots of great publications we can talk about. This is probably one of the most impressive pieces I have ever seen. Full disclosure, designed by Kit Heinrichs, who happens to be my mentor. But stop and look at this for a second. Each of these is an accordion folded up into a book. Each of these are 10 feet long. Wow. Each of these is a decade. And every piece you see here, front and back, has been designed by an alumni. All put together and then put into a slip cover to celebrate their 75th anniversary. And if you go online, they gave it to their alumni, special alumni, but if you go online and you try to buy this, it is 4 digits to try to buy the book. It's exquisite. They took this to the next level, but here's the interesting thing. They scanned this and made this available online so that you can actually scroll and see all the pieces and all the credits and everything else. I mean, if you're the Arts Center College, for God's sakes, what better advertising and marketing? Use that to your advantage, please. We talked about direct mail. Please, direct mail is probably one of the most important things that you can do. I cannot emphasize this enough. Staying in constant contact through the whole funnel with the student or the applicant is incredibly important. The least expensive campaign is a 4 postcard campaign. You print 4 postcards up at one time digitally. You just do a 7 to 8 day drop. Just with a reminder, you're staying top of mind. The biggest challenge we have in marketing right now is, in fact, attention span and staying top of mind. Okay, constantly giving them a new URL to go to or something, new activity to be involved in. So, key point. This is a typical 60-second super cool fold of the week. Trish calls them magic hands. But you can see that the pieces can be really inexpensive, but very, very impactful. Now, obviously, Ringling is a college of design. They want something a little stronger. But look at this piece. It's really 4 over 4. the most expensive aspect of this, the die was not that expensive. It's getting somebody to actually pop them and then fold it. And they said up front, they do short drops so that they actually do about 2,000 to 2,500 at a time. Send those, then do some more, then do some more. It's not like they're dropping them all at the same time. Or something as simple as this. This is actually wonderful because it's 4/0. And the cover is actually 2/0. And it's called a Turkish fold or a burst. And you can get this to be quite large, to open up to a very, very large size. A lot of fun. I love this piece. Check this out. First of all, real interesting fold, which makes it fun. And this came with the acceptance letter. And then, boom, opens into a poster. Nicely done. Really impactful. This was an invitation for a very special event. It was sent by mail. Cost about $3 to send. But you open it up. There's a reply card, business reply card. Open it up. There's the invitation. What's important is everything that you're seeing here, top, bottom, all done on one sheet of paper. Then die cut and folded. They only did 3,500 of these, so it was a short run, but beautifully done. And then I think the pièce de résistance. This is the engineering school at University of Toronto. They wanted to do something that was mind-blowing. So that's the calendar of events. Yeah. And by the way, what's interesting is that template is it's an advanced origami template, but it's totally available online. You can just download that template and then print it, and it shows you what's the up and the down score part of it. So very, very cool. The back of the book has got a number of myths. We printed them there just because we wanted to talk to you about it. A lot of things about the importance of direct mail and using it, the cost of direct mail. You can read these on your own. I don't need to go through this. I will say this. Make sure that you estimate. We all love uncoated paper, and as a designer, I have designed for every mill, including all of the uncoated mills, particularly as a young designer, I did them all. I love text and cover. But from a cost perspective, make sure that you actually, estimate, because a coated sheet that's matte or silk or dull is far less expensive. We actually ran the numbers, and you'll see here, this is actual. 170% difference between a super smooth sheet of uncoated and our best McCoy dull or silk. So just be aware of that. We have all of these different pieces. They're available to you. They're free. I wish that we had the time to go through them all, but what I would share with you is you can go to sappysamples.com, or you can go to sappyetc, which is my team, educationtrainingconsulting.com, or you can talk to that gentleman back there, Eddie Canzano, who is the Boston area manager, market manager. So we will get you these samples, and here's the key. Let us know how many you need. We'll be happy to send you 5 or 10. If they're available, we will. The standards, I will be very honest with you, the standards are basically all going out of print. They've been around for a long time. Standard 6 is still available. There's still some of the standard number 2 on color management, but unfortunately 3, 4, and 5 are gone. I think give it a little while, you'll probably see them on eBay. you know. But neuroscience is available, direct mail is available, any of our environmental pieces are available, and please don't hesitate to contact us. I mean, I promised you this. My email address, but you can also get me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook. Anytime, contact me, or you've got Eddie's card, contact us. Tell us what you need. Let us continue to be of service to you. I hope you found this interesting. I hope that it brought up some thoughts, and I hope in some cases it reinforced the things that you were already doing. And until I see you again on another topic, I hope all your printing meets your expectations. Thanks so much for your time.